I am so happy with how this looks for the Rangers. We have a pitcher, Jack Leiter, and he is a dude.
And while I do think his hitting is worse than Derek Jeter, it's not that far off.
You're not mentioning 2006. You can mention the other people, not 2006.
Oh, just because I bought the best soap doesn't mean your room's going to be clean. It just leaves it to where I don't believe that the Canadians had a shot.
I really don't like the Clippers just kind of sending it in when they're like...
Hi, this is Kelly Forbes with the Dallas Stars, and you're listening to Outsiders Opinions with Kevin and Austin.
What's up, y'all? Welcome to our NHL Opinions of the Week. I'm Kevin. I'm joined by the man that has seen this same thing 3 straight times. The Dallas Stars do not advance to the Stanley Cup Final after advancing to the Western Conference Finals for 3 straight years. Austin.
Yeah, I think this was by far the worst of the 3 teams that have made it. That first year that they made it, 22-23, I honestly thought they were the better team for the majority of the series, except for Game 3 when Jamie Benn decided to be Jamie Benn. I thought they were better in Game 1. I thought they were better than Game 2. And then they won Games 4 and 5. So I think that was easily a series that they could have won. But a couple of mistakes in the first 2 games, and then Jamie Benn being Jamie Benn is the reason why they lost that series. Then last year, they were up 2-1 in the series. They looked good, and they had a serious chance of advancing. And they were better, I think, in Game 6, the game that they ended up losing the series on, than the Oilers. But a goal went their way, and that was it. This year, this was bad. I kind of expected it. There was a couple of friends. I went to Game 1, and I enjoyed it. But that was the only enjoyable game for the Stars this series. And, again, I was talking to some of my friends before the series, and they were like, oh, the Oilers aren't that deep, and they have these problems and this problems. The only problem with the Oilers this year is really just the consistency of their goaltending. They're a lot more deep than the Stars, scoring-wise, at least in the playoffs, and their defense is significantly better. The only player who I think sticks out above the Oilers is Miro Heiskanen. I think Heiskanen is the best player that's a defenseman in the series, and then it goes Bouchard, and then probably Harley, and then every Oilers defender probably, and then every Stars defender after that. That's really how I looked at this series. And in scoring, we talked about it before the series, and I talked about this with people while I was at the game. Rantanen scored every goal for 2 weeks, or contributed to a goal. Every goal the Stars scored for 2 weeks, basically, of the playoffs. Okay, if he goes cold, where do the Stars go? And friends are like, well, they're so deep that they can rely on anybody. But really, can they? And they weren't able to. Rantanen stopped scoring, which is fine. He's not superhuman, right? This series, while Rantanen was not good, he cannot be the savior of the Stars every round, right? But no one picked it up. Not Robertson, who even had a good Game 5, but did not have a good series before that. Wyatt Johnston, Matt Duchene was very bad. Tyler Seguin had a great Game 1. Rest of the series didn't get a single point. Jamie Benn struggled throughout the playoffs. They don't really have the depth offensively, even though they showed it in the regular season. In the postseason, no depth at all. Probably the worst depth in the NHL, scoring-wise. It was one guy the entire playoffs that they actually were winning games when this one player played well. And then for the defense, they survived without Miro, and then Miro played well, and Harley played well, and there's some good games here and there for other players. But, I mean, you look at what kind of doomed them in Game 5, it goes off Esa Lindell's skate, right? If that goal doesn't happen, what happens in the series? And there was a lot of moments like that. Thomas Harley earlier in the series, I think in Game 2 that happened, where Thomas Harley was the one that was in front of the net banging it in. Ottinger was amazing. I know he didn't play necessarily well in Game 5 and was pulled after 2 shots on goal. Not just 2 goals, Kevin. The first 2 shots of the game went in. So I kind of understand a little bit more than some other people do regarding why DeBoer took him out. And let's get this through. Casey DeSmith was not the reason why the Game 5 loss happened. I thought he played fine. The first goal was bad. Yes, the goal to make it 3-0, bad. The next 2 goals was a Connor McDavid breakaway and a defenseman tipping it into his own goal. Those 2 goals are not on Casey DeSmith. The first one was horrible. I agree that the goal that made it 3-0, he has to save that. But a Connor McDavid breakaway, not many goalies are saving anyways, right? Any goalie. And then when you get tipped in like that from Esa Lindell, it was just a pass in from behind the net, pass in front off of Lindell's skate and over the shoulder of Casey DeSmith. Can't do anything about that. This series was won and lost by the Stars' lack of depth defensively and offensively, and the Oilers were just the better team. But the question of this video is, how did the Stars get over the hump? Kevin, you can either talk about this past series or talk about the future. I'm fine with whatever.
Yeah, so kind of talking about that, this was, I would say, the weakest out of those three, and it was kind of, I remember I said, I thought the Stars were going to lose in the first round at the start of the year because it's so hard to go deep 3 straight years and not win and keep that ability up. So I blame their defense. I think the scoring wise, I think they were so focused on keeping up with McDavid that they just didn't have enough juice for that offensive end. For them to get over the hump, I think it is. I do think Rantanen's a huge addition, but I do think they need their regular season goal scorers to perform in the playoffs. You need Jason Robertson to perform in the playoffs because he got you the most points in the regular season, and he didn't really do much. He didn't live up to that. I think for them, they invest defensively, which is tough given all their money problems. But you have Harley, you have Heiskanen. I think Lindell is a good player, but they need more depth defensively. I think they have a really solid offensive group. I think Wyatt Johnson continues to get better. You also have Maverick Bourque. You have Rantanen, Rupe, and Robertson. I think it'd be good if they kept Grunland, but the problem is
they won't
the
be
money.
able to.
Yeah.
They won't be able to, unless it's extremely team friendly. I am also wondering what they do with Duchesne.
I feel
Duchesne
like
was an 82 point, so he's a point per game guy, 82 points in 82 games, but he's a free agent. Do the Stars bring him back on a short-term deal? Duchesne's kind of been a journeyman in his career. He's gone to a lot of different places. What do you think happens with him?
I think they want to keep him, but he doesn't want to do a 1-year deal. It just gets to the cap gymnastics of it. If they can give him like a short-term deal, that'd be great. I think it'd be good for him to be with the Stars, but you also have Jamie Benn. I'd like them to bring Jamie Benn back, just kind of what he means to Dallas, even though it is kind of, I think that would be a 1-year deal with Jamie Benn. But you will just have to see. But I don't think there have to be any major moves. I think you just have to go through this process with this core.
How much longer is this core around? Because I don't want to compare this to the Maple Leafs at all, because they have a lot more success. Since 2020, they made 4 Western Conference Finals in 6 years, 4 to 6. That's amazing. And they made a Stanley Cup final. A Stanley Cup final they were competitive in, win 6 games. And there's obviously the game 4 debacle where Jamie Benn gets a phantom tripping call in overtime and leads to a Tampa win. If the Stars have won that game in overtime, and they would have been up in the series, or they would have tied the series 2-2, and then they won the next game, so they would have been up 3-2, and then it would potentially have gone to a game 7. But we keep seeing core pieces getting chipped away. How disappointing would it be for this core not to win? Because they've been so close so many times. Even the year before 2020, they went to the Western Conference Final. So if we do last 7 years, they made it 5 times. I just thought about that. 18-19, they lost no, they didn't.
No,
that
I think it was second round.
No, yeah, that was second round. That's right.
Yeah,
that's
to
right.
the
You're
Blues
right.
who ended up winning.
Yeah. So 4 to 6, but they lost to the team that won in the Stanley Cup Final in 18-19. So, but 4 to 6 years they've been in the best series in the West, and then obviously you lost the Stanley Cup Final. Like, I'll ask you again, how disappointing would this be for this core not to win?
I think it'd be pretty disappointing, and the thing that gives me hope is Rantanen's a huge piece. And it wasn't even a full year with the team. So that core has changed over the years. I would say in that 2020 year, it was really Jamie Benn, Tyler Seguin, Joe Pavelski. Now I would say the core is Rupe Hintz, Miro Heiskanen, Rantanen, and Jason Robertson. So we've seen it change over the years, but they've been able to stay competitive. It's just they need to get over that hump, and I think they just need players that I think they have the right players. offensively. It's defensively where they need to fix some players.
Even
but
after all their, they went through large scoring droughts between games 2, 3, 4. You don't think that worries you?
I'm not too worried about it because I just think there's a lot of. I think Robertson figures it out in the playoffs, and he's not your number one guy, which makes me feel better because your number one guy to me is Rantanen. Rupe, I think, is fantastic, and I'm excited to see him develop more chemistry with Rantanen, and it hurts that he got a broken foot on just a terrible hit from Darnell Nurse.
He was able to come back and play, but
he was still able to come
really
back and play, but it does. And like he was still able to. There's that. I've seen that clip where he's pretty close to McDavid, and it's with his fractured foot. But yeah, it's just he would have been healthy, so we just wouldn't have had a broken foot. But I think they just go at least 1 or 2 more years before any drastic changes, because that's also kind of when the contracts will start drying up. Because this is Jamie, you're finally getting off Jamie Benn's contract. Tyler Sagan's, I'm not sure how long that is going. And I think
while you keep talking.
I think they bring back Jamie Benn, but it's going to be on a better deal than what it was, because that was a pretty bad contract, given that Jamie Benn wasn't your number one guy or even in your top 3, I would say. So I really am curious what they do with Duchesne. I'm kind of expecting him to be gone because I just don't think they're going to be able to agree on a contract that fits for both.
So Sagan's under contract for 2 more years. He has 25-26 and then 26-27, where he's going to be paid $9.85 million for each, and then he's a UFA.
Okay, so that kind of that to me would be the end of the official era with Sagan, and no one knows how long Ben will keep playing. But I do think they give it. I think they try to move off a lot of the defensemen they sign, like Matt Dumba. They have on a contract, and he was a scratch in most of the playoff games. So we'll have to keep an eye on that.
He is under contract for next year, though, for another $3.75 million.
Yeah, Dumba, I think they got to move off a lot of those defenders and make some ways for it. I do think Bichelle stays up, but I do think they move some. You got to move some money around if you want to keep Duchesne. I think they bring back Ben. Not sure about Duchesne, and then that's kind of the only guys I'm thinking about.
And then there's Granlund.
Yeah, and Granlund, but he's probably gone, as you said. So
yeah, I'd be pretty shocked if Granlund returns, because I think he's going to get a pretty large deal.
So my overall thing for how they get over the hump is, I think they have to be patient and learn from these really heartbreaking past 3 years.
Yeah, as we know in hockey, one great player does not make you you're not necessarily championship contenders. Now the Stars still are. How long do you think that window stays open?
I think next 2 years.
Okay. Sounds good. Well, it's been disappointing because I really think those really 22-23, I think that was the year to win it. I think that was the best chance the Stars have had outside of the year they went to the Stanley Cup final, because they played better in game 1, game 2, had a chance of winning game 3 until what happened with Jamie Benn, then won game 4 and 5. They were the better team in 4 out of the first 5 games and were down in the series. So we'll see if the future is brighter than the past, but a lot of teams would love to have the success the Stars have had over the last 6 years, but it does not matter. You could say that the Stars are the most successful Western Conference team in the 2020s, right? Because Vegas has only been to 1 Stanley Cup, and they won it. Avalanche have been to a couple Western Conference finals. Same thing with the Vegas, and they won it. But the Stars have been ever present in the West, except for 2 years. And they just haven't gotten over the hump, though. And I think that's really what you weigh success with, right, is cups, not playoff series won, because I think they do lead the West in playoff series won since 2020.
Yeah, they've won a ton of playoff games, but they just haven't gotten that series win where you get that cup. So yeah, it is really disappointing. So we'll keep an update on the Stars. We'll talk about them, of course. We do have local ties to them, but they are also, I would say, it's a big storyline in the NHL, just how they have made it far, but they just haven't got it done. So let us know your thoughts in the comments. We appreciate you listening to Outsiders Opinions.